Hi there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 108 of our Be a Better You annual challenge. Today we are talking about the expression, life is a mirror, and we get out of life what we put out into the world. What we put into the world is what comes back to us. It's kind of an unspoken, underlying knowing and understanding in each of our relationships and all the different types of relationships that we put our energy into, whether it's a friendship, our family relationships, our working professional relationships, our social encounters and relationships. The energy we put out into the world, this is a universal law. I did not make it up. And what we put out into the world comes back to us. So I'm going to share 6 ways that we can use to make sure that what we're putting out into the world is truly what we want to get back in return. But first, let's talk about how does this play out in different relationships. In our family relationships, that tends to be the first mirror that we have, the first reflection back to us, what we put out into the world. Babies cry and they get attention, right? Babies make noise and they get attention. Kids act up in positive and negative ways and they get attention. Depending on the type of family you have or had, will determine what you take away from that, what beliefs, what values, what lessons learned you take from your growing up and your childhood experiences. But we learn pretty early on as humans, as babies in fact, that what we put into the world is what we get back. And babies cry because there's something wrong and they need attention and they need someone else to figure out what it is for them. With respect to our friendships show a reflection of our values, what's important to us. We choose friends based on what we're attracted to, what's important to us. So a lot of times our friends will have common interests with us. We'll share hobbies, we'll share interests, we'll be involved in the same sports or like the same sports or the same types of activities. There are whole groups of shopping friends. Not my thing, but a lot of people, including 3 of my 4 sisters, 3 of the 4 of us, love shopping. I am the one that chooses not to participate in that very much. Romantic relationships are probably the ultimate reflection, and they tend to show the deepest part of us, our beliefs, our desires, our fears, our wounds. That's where our true deepest self tends to show up, is in those romantic relationships, those partnering up relationships. Professional relationships are a reflection of our work ethic and our boundaries. What will we and will we not do when it comes to boundaries for work and for the work that we do in the world? It's a reflection of what's important to us. Some people have a super duper strong work ethic and love to contribute to the world and make the world a better place. Other people just want to work enough to make enough money to do what they really want to do, right? Or to survive. So what are 6 ways that we can make sure that we're putting out into the world the energy and the level of input and value, because life is a value exchange, right? Just like life is a mirror, it's a value exchange. How are we putting enough energy and value out into the world to get back what we want in our lives? Number 1, we need to cultivate self-love and self-respect. Everything, we don't always admit it, but absolutely everything begins with us and starts inside of us. What it is we choose to learn, what we're interested in, what we choose to achieve and do and be and have in our life, it all comes from within. It starts as an idea, and then we follow up and take action on that idea, and then all of a sudden we create and we have what it is that we want in our life, because we put enough energy into learning something or enough energy into creating something that it actually shows up in our life. So we want to make sure that we have self-love and self-respect first and foremost. How do we do that? We go about being self-aware and reflecting on, hey, what is really important to me? It's incredible to me how many adults of us, and I do it, so I don't count myself in that category, but don't actually consciously choose what they want to have. A thing here and a thing there, but for the overarching direction of their life, they don't choose. They just go with whatever the world shows them and they take notice of. And that's always a self-reflection of what is going on inside them. Number 2, practice empathy and active listening. We're going to probably talk about this every month this year because it affects every area and aspect of our life. I say often, people will tell me and you and everyone else everything you need to know if you're willing to use your 2 ears and listen, really pay attention, be present, reflect back what you think you're hearing them say. Because how often have you done that and realized they were saying one thing and you were hearing a totally opposite thing? Been there, done that in lots of my relationships. That's why I choose to listen actively to really know what's going on. Third, we want to communicate openly and honestly. Again, we're going to talk about this a lot because I think in a lot of areas and aspects of our world and our lives, for the last 4 or 5 years or maybe decades, we have been not being dealt with openly and honestly. And for some of us, it always rubbed us the wrong way. And it's like, kind of like a breath of fresh air to see the candid behavior that's going on in some areas, and the not so candid and the continued manipulation in others. But we see right through that because it's easy if you are putting out into the world openness, honest, open-minded energy. That's what you'll get back. That's what you'll be able to see. If you're putting out negative energy, closed-minded thinking, etc., not thinking for yourself and letting other people and entities think for you, that's all you're going to see. And it's really interesting to step back and watch this all play out in our country, the United States, as well as in the rest of the world. It's once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like one of those things when you see one of those secret picture things that you can see two ways. Once you see both ways, it's impossible to unsee both ways. But until you can see both ways, you can only see one way. That's, I think, why I love those puzzles. They're a reminder to me of that. 4, heal and let go of past wounds. We all have past wounds, right? Whether it's from our childhood, past romantic relationships, or past unrequited love, or whatever it is in our lives, or broken friendships, or people letting us down or disappointing us, or we expected something from a relationship or a person that they weren't ready or willing to give because we weren't the right person for them. But we all have wounds like that, and we need to heal those and let go of the past in order to move forward and create and put the energy out in the world that we want to create in the world. What we put out is what we get back. So if we're putting back hurt, broken, damaged, negative, sad, angry, fearful energy, guess what we're going to get back in our lives? We're going to attract that from different relationships in our life. And that's the opposite of what we want to do. We don't want to get hurt more. We want to heal from those so that we don't get hurt again. Number 5, set boundaries and protect your energy, specifically and everywhere in your life, but especially with respect to work. What I found growing up in corporate America and having my own businesses is entities will expect from you as much as they can possibly get. So jobs will expect you to do everything, pay you very little for the most part. This is my generalization. And you are always undervalued, right? As a human being, we aren't paid to be a human being. We're paid to do a specific set of tasks. And that group of tasks will continually grow and expand as long as you're willing to accept it. And until you set a boundary and say, I will take on that area of responsibility and that work with this level of compensation or with these caveats, because here's my boundaries. Here's what I will and will not do. I will and will not accept, for money, right? So we want to make sure that we set limits and boundaries that honor us as human beings and that meet our own needs. Didn't always do this. When I was younger, I was definitely a workaholic and run around like a chicken with my head cut off because I had 2 young children, right? And a husband and a family and a household to take care of and do, etc. So we need to set boundaries both in our personal lives as well as our professional lives. And then finally, 6, we want to lead with positivity and gratitude. We want to make sure that we're appreciating what we have that's working every single day. Why? Because that creates more of that energy in our life. Again, what we put out into the world, whether we believe it or not, is what we get back. So here's an exercise to try today. If there is any area or aspect of your life that you're not delighted and happy with or satisfied with what's coming back to you in the world, ask yourself, what am I putting out into that? Maybe it's an area of your life, maybe your health, for example, you're totally ignoring. Well, guess what? If you're not paying attention to it, if you're not giving your body and your body sleep, hydration, a little movement, and the good food and nutrition that it needs, you're not going to get good results in that area. I think we've seen that a huge percentage of the population, at least in the United States, we can see, and I look at myself in the mirror sometimes, which is super duper hard in self-reflection, but I can see when I'm not taking care of myself. I can see when I'm not drinking enough water. I can feel when I'm not drinking enough water. And of course, we'll talk about that when we focus on our physical well-being and health. But for right now, it applies to everything. What we give energy to, what we pay attention to in a positive way and in giving it energy to is what we'll get back in our life. If we give it negative energy, we'll get negative things back. Again, universal law, didn't make it up. It reminds me of my dad always telling us girls that life isn't fair, and life isn't fair, but it really is, because it gives us exactly what we give. It gives us what we put out into the world is what we get back. And sometimes that doesn't seem fair, and sometimes accidents and things happen that we don't understand, but somehow that energy is getting put out there. So that's why we got to be careful what we think about, what we focus on, what we appreciate, because we should only ever appreciate things we want more of in our life. All right, action item today, pick one of these things, or think about one of your relationships and run through this list of 6 things. Or think about one of your relationships and say, what am I giving to this relationship? What am I actually expecting in return? And am I giving enough to have that be a realistic expectation in this relationship? And if the answer is no, make some changes in your behavior, because guess what? We are the only one we can change in our relationships. We can't change anybody else on the planet but ourselves. All right, have an awesome day. Any questions, ask. I'll be with you tomorrow. Bye.